The letter arrived on a Tuesday. Lena Kovač found it wedged between the leather sofa cushions of the penthouse she cleaned every week. Expensive paper, thick, the kind that didn't come from office supply stores, the kind that carried weight before you even read the words, the kind diplomats used, or lawyers, or people who understood that presentation mattered as much as content. She shouldn't have touched it. Her supervisor, Mrs. Chen, had been clear about the rules. Don't touch personal items. Don't open drawers. Don't read papers left on desks. Keep your eyes down, your hands busy, and your curiosity locked away. The wealthy didn't pay for cleaners who noticed things. They paid for invisible women who made dirt disappear and then disappeared themselves. But the wax seal was broken, and the words, Cyrillic, Old Russian script, pulled at something deep in her chest. Something she hadn't felt since her grandmother's kitchen in Split, when the world was smaller and war hadn't yet scattered her family like ash across 3 continents. The handwriting was shaky, childlike, desperate. The pen had pressed so hard in places that the paper was almost torn through. Someone had written this with urgency, with need. Lena's fingers trembled as she smoothed the paper against her apron. She was still holding it when the door opened. Dmitri Volkov didn't knock. Men like him never did. He stood in the doorway, charcoal suit sharp enough to cut, hands in his pockets, posture relaxed but eyes alert. His eyes, cold, gray, unreadable, moved from her face to the letter in her trembling hands with the precision of a man who missed nothing. The penthouse went silent. Even the city noise from 40 floors below seemed to hold its breath. The late afternoon sun cut through floor-to-ceiling windows, casting long shadows across imported marble. "Put it down," he said quietly. Not loud, not threatening, just absolute. Lena's knees locked. She'd cleaned for wealthy men before. Nervous hedge fund managers who yelled at their phones, angry tech CEOs who threw glasses at walls when stocks dropped, paranoid cryptocurrency traders who made her sign NDAs before she could vacuum their offices. But Dmitri Volkov wasn't loud. He didn't need to be. His reputation arrived before he did, whispered in basement restaurants where old Russian men played cards, muttered by doormen who wouldn't meet his eyes, carried like smoke through the Russian neighborhoods of Brighton Beach, where Lena sometimes shopped for the imported foods that reminded her of home. People said he owned half the port, that he decided which shipments made it through customs and which ones vanished into the Atlantic, that he settled disputes with a phone call, and when phone calls didn't work, people simply left, relocated, disappeared. Lena had cleaned his penthouse every Tuesday for 6 months, and he'd never been home. She'd assumed he was like the others, too busy, too important, too disinterested in the invisible woman who scrubbed his toilets and organized his books. She'd been wrong. She set the letter on the marble counter with careful, deliberate fingers, trying to control their shaking. He crossed the room, slowly, deliberately, each footstep a measured beat against imported Italian tile, picked up the letter, studied her face like he was reading a map, tracing routes and borders, looking for weaknesses. "You read Russian?" Her throat tightened. No. It wasn't entirely a lie. She didn't read modern Russian, not fluently. Then why were you holding it like it mattered? Because it reminded her of home. Because the script looked like her grandmother's handwriting in the margins of old prayer books, the ones that had survived the war only to be lost when they fled. Because for one stupid, careless second, she forgot where she was. Forgot who she was standing in front of. Forgot that women like her didn't get to be curious about men like him. She said none of this. Dmitri tilted his head, studying her, the way a jeweler studies a stone, looking for flaws, for value, for authenticity. "You're Croatian." It wasn't a question. "Yes." "How long in New York?" 3 years. "Legal?" Her jaw tightened. She'd heard this question before, from landlords, from employers, from men on subway platforms who thought her accent gave them permission to interrogate. Yes. He considered this, turning the letter over in his hands, examining the wax seal, the paper quality, the careful way it had been folded. Then he smiled, not warmly, but with the precision of a man testing a blade's edge. "Translate this," he said, holding up the letter between two fingers, "and I'll pay your rent for a year." Lena blinked. "I just said I don't." "You're lying." The air left her lungs. He stepped closer. Close enough that she could smell expensive cologne and something darker underneath. Gunpowder, maybe, or fear, or both. Close enough that she could see the faint scar along his jawline, the silver threading through his dark hair, the exhaustion he hid behind cold authority. "I've watched you," Dmitri said softly, voice like silk over steel. "Every Tuesday for 6 months. You don't just clean, you read. Book spines, newspaper clippings I leave out, magazine covers. You linger on the Cyrillic ones. Your eyes move differently when you see Slavic languages. You mouth the words." Her pulse hammered against her ribs. "You're careful," he continued, circling her slowly like a wolf circling prey. "Respectful. You don't steal, don't snoop, don't ask questions. You fold my newspapers exactly as you found them. You replace books in precisely the same spots, even when they're out of order. But you notice. You see things. You remember. And women who notice are either very smart or very dangerous." Lena forced her voice steady. "I'm a cleaning lady." "That's not what I asked." Silence stretched between them like a wire pulled taut, ready to snap. The refrigerator hummed. Traffic. Sounds drifted up from the street. Somewhere in the building, someone was playing piano. She looked at the letter again. The handwriting was unsteady, vulnerable. A child's handwriting. Someone who'd gripped the pen too tightly, pressed too hard, trying to make the words permanent, trying to make them matter. "Why does it matter?" she whispered. Dmitri's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind his eyes. Something raw and unguarded and quickly buried. "Because it's from my daughter," he said, "and I can't read it." Lena stared at him. Men like Dmitri Volkov didn't admit weakness. They didn't hand strangers their secrets. They didn't stand in their own penthouses looking lost. They buried problems in shallow graves and moved on. They built empires on the principle that vulnerability was death. But his hand, the one holding the letter, was shaking. Just slightly. Just enough. "She's 8, he said, voice carefully flat, each word measured and controlled. "Lives with her mother in Moscow. I haven't seen her in 2 years. Her mother won't allow it. Restraining order, international custody agreement, says I'm unsuitable." He laughed once bitterly, the sound sharp and wrong in the quiet room. "Last week, this arrived. No return address, no phone call, no warning, just this. Old Russian, pre-revolution script, the kind my grandmother used to write. My daughter learned it from her babushka, her grandmother, my aunt. She knows I can't read it. That's why she wrote it this way." Lena's chest ached. "She wanted you to work for it," she said quietly. Dmitri looked at her sharply, something dangerous flashing in his eyes, the instinct to strike at anyone who saw too much. Then it softened, broke. "Yes." Lena reached for the letter, her hand steadied as she smoothed the paper on the counter, fingers tracing the edges with reverence. The words swam into focus, archaic, formal, heartbreaking in their careful construction. Whoever taught this child had taught her properly, with discipline, with love. "Papa," she read aloud, voice soft but clear. "Babushka says you are a bad man. Mama says you are dangerous. The lawyers say you are not allowed to see me. But I remember when you carried me on your shoulders through the snow in Gorky Park. I remember your voice when you sang to me at night. I remember that you were warm and you smelled like coffee, and you called me your little star." Dmitri's jaw clenched. A muscle jumped in his cheek. His hands gripped the counter edge until his knuckles went white. Lena continued, her own voice thickening. "I wrote this in the old words, so you would have to try. So you would have to care enough to find someone who remembers, someone who knows what these letters mean. Babushka said if you really loved me, you would find a way. She said love always finds a way, even when the world says no. She paused, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. If you are reading this, it means you did. It means you worked for it. It means maybe Mama is wrong. Maybe you are not just what they say you are. Maybe you are still my papa. Her voice cracked. I am sick, Papa. The doctors use words I don't understand, but I see Mama crying when she thinks I'm asleep. I hear her on the phone with Babushka saying words like treatments and specialists and time. She won't tell you because she thinks you will make it worse, that you will bring your world into mine, that your money and your power and your dangerous friends will corrupt even this. Dmitri made a sound, low, wounded, animal. But I wanted you to know. I wanted you to have the choice to come, even if it's hard, even if Mama says no, even if the lawyers say you're not allowed. I wanted you to know that I am here, and I am scared, and I want my papa. Lena stopped, looked up. Dmitri Volkov, feared, untouchable, violent, stood frozen. His eyes were wet. Tears tracked down his face, and he didn't bother wiping them away. There's more, Lena whispered. He nodded once, unable to speak. I don't need you to save me, she read, and now her own tears fell freely. I don't need your money or your power or whatever it is that makes grown men afraid of you. I don't need you to fix everything or make the sickness go away. I just need you to be there, to sit with me, to hold my hand, to tell me stories, to be my papa, not the man from the stories, not the monster Mama talks about, just you. She took a shaky breath. I need to know my father is real, that he exists outside of Mama's angry words and Babushka's warnings. I need to know that somewhere in the world there is a man who loves me enough to learn an old language, who loves me enough to break rules, who loves me enough to try. The letter ended with a single line, written larger than the rest. The pen pressed so hard it almost tore through. Come find me, please. You're Sasha. And below that, in smaller script, P.S. Babushka says the old words are a test. She says if you pass, I am allowed to believe in you. Please pass, Papa. Please. The penthouse was utterly silent. Dmitri turned away, shoulders rigid, hands opening and closing into fists. For a long moment, he didn't speak, didn't move, just stood there like a man whose entire world had shifted 3 inches to the left and nothing would ever align properly again. When he finally did speak, his voice was raw, stripped of all pretense. How much do you want? Lena folded the letter carefully, precisely, along its original creases. Her hands were steady now. Nothing. He spun around. I offered you. I don't want your money. Then what do you want? Lena met his eyes without flinching. I want you to go to her. Dmitri stared at her like she'd spoken in tongues, like she'd suggested he fly to the moon. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. There are legal complications. Your daughter is dying. The words hung in the air like a blade. Dmitri's face went white. You don't know that. The letter doesn't say, she's 8 years old and she's writing goodbye letters in a dead language. What else does it say? He flinched like she'd struck him. Lena stepped forward. I lost my family in the war. My father, my uncles, my brother. I know what it's like when someone doesn't come, when they choose safety or pride or fear over showing up, when they let you die, wondering if you mattered. Her voice hardened. My father had reasons, good reasons. The fighting was bad. Travel was impossible. He would have been killed at the checkpoints. He sent letters. He sent money when he could. He did everything except come. She pointed at the letter on the counter. Your daughter didn't write this to test you. She wrote it because she's dying, and she wants her father. Not the legend, not the monster, not the man who sends money and lawyers and tries to fix things from a distance. She wants you. Present. Real. There. Dmitri's hands curled into fists. You don't know what you're asking. Her mother has resources, lawyers. She'll have me arrested the moment I step off the plane. So bring better lawyers. The restraining order is international. Then break it. I could lose everything. My business. My freedom. What does any of that matter if your daughter dies thinking you didn't care enough to try? The silence that followed was deafening. Dmitri stared at her, this cleaning woman, this nobody, this immigrant who had nothing and somehow had the audacity to lecture him about what mattered. And then something broke in him. He pulled out his phone, pressed a single contact. "Gregor," he said. Voice steady now. Commander's voice, the voice of a man who moved chess pieces across international boards. "Prep the jet. File a flight plan for Moscow. We leave in 2 hours." A pause. "I don't care what the lawyers say. I don't care about the restraining order. Bring whoever we need. Pay whoever we have to pay. But we are going to Moscow, and we are going tonight." He hung up, looked at Lena with something like respect, or fear, or gratitude. "You're coming with me." Her eyes widened. "What?" "You read Old Russian. Sasha's grandmother, my aunt Ekaterina, only speaks it. Refuses to acknowledge the modern world. Hasn't spoken contemporary Russian in 40 years. It's a point of pride for her. A protest against everything she thinks the Soviet Union destroyed." He started pacing, energy returning, mind working. "If I'm walking into my ex-wife's house uninvited, if I'm violating a court order and risking international incident, I need someone Ekaterina will respect. She won't listen to my lawyers. She won't listen to my security. But she'll listen to a woman who can speak the old tongue, who shows proper respect." Lena stepped back, shaking her head. "I can't just leave. I have other clients. 6 other buildings. Mrs. Chen will fire me. I have bills, rent due next week. I can't just... I'll pay them, all of them, every bill, every client, 6 months in advance. You can't just... I own a shipping empire worth $300 million. I absolutely can. I need to think. There's no time to think. My daughter is dying, and I've already wasted 2 years." Lena stared at him. This man who bought and sold lives, now begging a cleaning woman for help. "Please," Dmitri said, and the word sounded foreign in his mouth, unpracticed. "My daughter is dying. You're the only person in this city who can help me reach her. So yes, you're coming. Please." It was the second please that did it. The desperation in his voice. The way he said it like a man who'd forgotten how to ask for anything and was remembering in real time what it meant to need someone. "2 conditions," Lena said. "Name them." 1, you don't lie to me, not once. Not about why we're going, not about what might happen, not about the danger. Agreed. 2, if your daughter asks me to leave, we leave. No matter what you want. Her comfort comes first. Dmitri hesitated, then nodded. Agreed. Lena took a deep breath. Then I'll come. She didn't pack much, a single canvas bag. Her grandmother's scarf, hand-knitted, the colors faded but still beautiful, the one she'd carried across an ocean. A change of clothes, toiletries, the battered Croatian English dictionary that had been her companion for 3 years. Mrs. Chen called while she was packing. "Lena, Mr. Patterson's office says you didn't come today. Are you sick?" "I'm sorry, Mrs. Chen. I have an emergency, family emergency." A pause. "You don't have family in New York." "Family overseas. I have to travel. I'll be back next week." Another pause. Longer. "If you don't come back, don't bother coming back." The line went dead. Lena stared at her phone. 3 years of building a client list, 3 years of good reviews and steady work. Gone. But when she thought of that letter, of a little girl writing in a dead language because it was the only way to reach her father, she couldn't bring herself to care. Some things mattered more than job security. At the private airport in Teterboro, Gregor, a mountain of a man with a shaved head and surprisingly kind eyes, handed her a passport. New passport. Her photo, expedited stamps, emergency travel authorization. How did you... It's been 2 hours. Don't ask, Gregor said gently in accented English. Boss has friends everywhere. Better not to know. He handed her a phone too. Encrypted. Use this while we're in Russia. Your regular phone stays here. Why? Because Russian intelligence services monitor everything. If they know you're traveling with Dmitri Volkov, you become leverage. Lena's stomach dropped. What have I agreed to? Gregor smiled sadly. An act of love. Those are always dangerous. The plane was sleek, anonymous, luxurious in a way that felt obscene. Cream leather seats, mahogany tables, a bedroom in the back, a full bar. This was how the other half lived. The half that never stood in line, never worried about rent, never counted pennies at the grocery store. Dmitri sat across from her, staring out the window at clouds that looked like torn cotton, jaw tight, fingers drumming an unconscious rhythm against the leather armrest. He'd changed clothes. Black sweater, dark jeans, no suit. He looked younger this way, more human, more like a father and less like a kingpin. For the first hour, neither of them spoke. Then, Lena broke the silence. Tell me about her. Dmitri didn't look away from the window. Why? Because if I'm going to help you reach her, I need to understand who she is, what matters to her, how to talk to her. He was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, she's brilliant, scary brilliant. At 6, she was reading Pushkin. At 7, she taught herself piano by watching YouTube videos. She has her mother's beauty and her grandmother's stubbornness, and his voice cracked. And my eyes. Everyone says she has my eyes. What happened between you and her mother? Dmitri finally looked at her. You want the truth? That was the deal. He nodded slowly. I was young, ambitious, stupid. I worked for men who didn't ask questions and didn't tolerate weakness. I moved shipments, collected debts, did what I was told. He paused. Irina, Sasha's mother, she was a ballet dancer. Beautiful, elegant, everything I wasn't. We met at a charity gala, one of those events where criminals pretend to be philanthropists. You fell in love. I fell in obsession. I thought I could have both, the life and the girl. I was wrong. What happened? She got pregnant, we got married. For 2 years it was good, better than good. I came home every night. I held my daughter. I pretended I was normal. His hands clenched. Then one of my shipments went wrong. Rival organization. They came to my house while I was at work. They wanted to send a message. Lena's breath caught. Irina and Sasha were home. Sasha was 4. The men broke down the door, put guns to their heads, told Irina to call me, to tell me they would kill them both if I didn't hand over the shipment. What did you do? I burned down their warehouse with 3 of their lieutenants inside. Then I sent their boss a message written in his brother's blood. Lena went cold. I saved my family, Dmitri said quietly. But Irina never forgave me. Not for the violence. For the fact that violence was necessary. For the fact that being with me meant living in a world where men with guns could break into her home. She left you. She fled to Moscow with Sasha. Filed for divorce. Restraining order, full custody. The Russian court sided with her. Said I was a danger to the child. Were they wrong? Dmitri looked at her with those gray eyes. Eyes his daughter had inherited. No, they weren't wrong. Everything Irina said about me is true. I am dangerous. I do hurt people. Being near me is a risk. Then why go back? Because my daughter wrote me a letter, in a dead language, asking me to prove I love her more than I love being safe. And I do, even if it costs me everything. They landed in Moscow at dawn. The city sprawled below them, Soviet apartment blocks mixing with glass skyscrapers, Orthodox churches with golden domes catching the early light, the Moscow River winding through it all like a gray ribbon. A car was waiting, black, armored, windows tinted so dark you couldn't see inside. 2 more cars fell in behind them. Security. Is all this necessary? Lena asked. Gregor, driving, met her eyes in the rearview mirror. In Russia? Yes. Boss has enemies here. Powerful ones. They drove through morning traffic, past babushkas selling vegetables on street corners, past businessmen in expensive suits rushing to offices, past the ordinary machinery of a city waking up. The house was in a wealthy suburb, Rublyovka, Gregor explained, where oligarchs and politicians kept their families far from the city's chaos. It was a fortress. High walls, iron gates, security cameras, guards at the entrance. Dmitri rolled down the window, spoke to the guard in rapid Russian. The guard's face went white. He reached for his radio. Tell them, Dmitri said quietly, that I'm here to see my daughter. I'm not leaving until I do. The guard spoke urgently into his radio. Minutes passed. Then the gates opened. That was easier than expected, Lena said. That's what worries me, Dmitri replied. Irina met them at the door. She was beautiful. Dmitri hadn't lied. Tall, elegant, with dark hair pulled into a severe bun and eyes like ice. She wore a simple dress that probably cost more than Lena's entire wardrobe. When she saw Dmitri, her face went through a series of expressions: shock, fear, fury, and finally something like resigned exhaustion. Niet, she said in Russian, her voice shaking. You are not welcome here. The court said, Irina. Dmitri's voice was stone. I'm seeing my daughter. She doesn't want to see you. She wrote me, in Old Russian, asking me to come. Irina's breath caught. Her hand flew to her mouth. How did you... She told me she was writing to her grandmother. She lied. She's 8 years old and she's already smarter than both of us. Behind Irina, an old woman appeared. Ekaterina. She was small, slight, with silver hair pulled into a tight bun and dark eyes that missed nothing. She wore a traditional Russian dress, the kind Lena had only seen in museums. She looked at Dmitri with an expression that mixed disappointment and hope. Then she looked at Lena, spoke in Old Russian, rapid and testing. Who is this woman you bring to my house? Lena answered in the same dialect respectfully. I am Lena Kovač, grandmother. I come from Croatia. I read your granddaughter's letter to her father. I helped him understand her words. Ekaterina's eyebrows rose. You speak the old tongue. My grandmother taught me, before the war. Which war? The Yugoslav war. We fled in 1995. Ekaterina studied her for a long moment. Then she turned to Irina and spoke in rapid modern Russian. Irina's shoulders slumped in defeat. 10 minutes, she said to Dmitri, voice barely a whisper. No more. And she, pointing at Lena, she stays with you. If you upset Sasha, if you make her cry, you leave immediately. Dmitri nodded. Agreed. Irina stepped aside. Sasha's room was on the 2nd floor. Pink walls, bookshelves overflowing, a piano in the corner, drawings taped to the walls, crayon pictures of families, of houses, of a girl with a man on her shoulders. Sasha was in bed, so small, so impossibly small. Pale against white sheets, dark hair spread like ink across the pillow. An IV drip ran into her thin arm. Monitors beeped softly, tracking her vitals. Medications lined the nightstand, orange bottles with Russian labels. But when Dmitri entered, her eyes opened and lit up like stars breaking through clouds. Papa? He crossed the room in 3 strides, dropped to his knees beside her bed like a supplicant before an altar. His hands shook as he reached for hers. I'm here, Malishka. I'm here. Sasha's small hand, so small, impossibly small, as fragile as bird bones, touched his face, traced his jaw like she was memorizing him. Her fingers lingered on the scar, the gray in his hair, the lines around his eyes. You look older. It's been 2 years. You found someone to read my letter. Dmitri looked back at Lena, standing in the doorway. Her name is Lena. She's from Croatia. She speaks Old Russian. Sasha's eyes moved to Lena, studied her carefully. Hello, she said in the old tongue. "Hello, Sasha," Lena replied. "Your letter was beautiful. Did he work hard to find you?" "He did." "Good." Sasha smiled, weak but radiant. "Babushka said if he really loved me, he would work for it. That love is supposed to be hard." Dmitri's voice broke completely. "I love you more than anything in this world. Even though Mama says you're dangerous? Especially then. Even though the lawyers say you're not allowed to be here? I don't care about lawyers. Even though you might get in trouble? Sasha," he gripped her hand gently, "I would burn down the entire city to sit here with you. Nothing matters more than this." Sasha's eyes filled with tears. Happy tears. "I was afraid you wouldn't come." "Never. You could write me letters in ancient Sanskrit, and I'd learn Sanskrit. You could hide in the remotest place on earth, and I'd find you. You're my daughter. There's nowhere you could go that I wouldn't follow." She laughed, weak, breathy, but real, the most beautiful sound Dmitri had ever heard. Then her expression turned serious. "Papa, I need to tell you something." "Anything." "I'm sick. Really sick. The doctors say..." She paused, struggling with the words. They use words like leukemia, and treatment and remission. Mama tries to explain, but I don't always understand. Dmitri's face went pale. "How bad?" "Bad enough that Mama's cries when she thinks I'm sleeping. Bad enough that Babushka prays every morning. Bad enough that I thought I should write you that letter before..." She trailed off. "Before what?" "Before I ran out of time." The room went silent except for the monitor's steady beeping. Dmitri's voice was raw. "What did the doctors say? What are they doing?" Sasha explained in halting Russian. The treatments, the medications, the chemotherapy that made her sick and tired, the bone marrow transplants they were considering, the specialists in Germany and Switzerland who might help. With each word, Dmitri's expression grew darker. "Why wasn't I told?" he demanded, voice rising. "Why didn't someone... Your mother should have..." "Papa?" Sasha squeezed his hand. "Mama was scared. She thought you would try to take over. Bring your world into mine. Make it about power and control instead of healing." "That's not... I would never..." "Wouldn't you?" The question hung in the air. Dmitri closed his eyes, took a shaky breath. "Maybe. Maybe she was right to be scared. My first instinct is always to fix things, to throw money at problems, to use influence and connections and force." "Is that what you're going to do now?" No, I'm going to sit here with you, and I'm going to ask what you need. What would make you feel better? What would help?" Sasha smiled. "That's the right answer. I had a good teacher." He looked at Lena. Lena stayed by the door watching this private resurrection. Ekaterina appeared beside her, silent as a ghost. "She tested him," the old woman said in Russian, voice like rustling paper. "And he came. That is what matters." Lena swallowed hard against the knot in her throat. "Will she be okay?" Ekaterina's eyes glistened. "With God's will and her father's love? Maybe. Love is strong medicine, stronger than doctors know." They stood in silence, watching father and daughter. Sasha was talking now, telling Dmitri about her books, her piano lessons, the cat that visited her window, the drawings she'd made, normal things, child things. The extraordinary made ordinary through her voice. Dmitri listened like every word was sacred, asked questions, laughed at her jokes, held her hand. He was gentle, patient, present, everything a father should be. "How long can he stay?" Lena asked. "As long as Sasha wants him," Ekaterina replied. "I will handle Irina. I will handle the lawyers. This is my house. My granddaughter. I decide who stays. The restraining order is a piece of paper. Love is stronger than paper." Dmitri stayed for 3 days. The first day, he just sat with Sasha, read to her from her favorite books, Russian fairy tales, Pushkin's poetry, Harry Potter in Russian translation. She fell asleep holding his hand, and he didn't move for hours, afraid to wake her. The second day, he met with her doctors, took notes, asked detailed questions, made phone calls to specialists in New York, in Germany, in Switzerland, arranged second opinions, coordinated treatment options. His organizational mind, the same one that ran a criminal empire, focused entirely on saving his daughter. But he was careful, gentle. He asked permission before making calls, consulted with Irina, deferred to the doctors. He didn't dominate, didn't demand, didn't throw his weight around. Lena watched him transform in real time. The third day, Sasha was strong enough to sit at her piano. Her fingers were thin, weak, but they found the keys. She played something simple, a Russian folk song, haunting and beautiful. Dmitri sat beside her, not playing, just being present. When she finished, she looked at him. "Sing with me, Papa, like you used to." "I don't remember the words." "Yes, you do. You always said you forgot, but your face remembers. I can tell." So he sang. His voice was rough, unpracticed, but he sang the old song his grandmother had taught him. The one about a bird flying home, about journeys and return, about love that survives winter. Sasha's eyes closed. She smiled. "I missed your voice," she whispered. "I missed you," he replied. "Every day. Every single day." On the third night, Lena found Dmitri on the balcony. He was staring at snow falling like ash over Moscow, breath fogging in the cold air. "She's stronger," Lena said quietly, joining him. "Because I'm here. Because someone made me prove I deserved to be." He turned to her, and in the dim light he looked young, vulnerable, human. "You didn't translate that letter for money. You did it because you knew what it meant, what it costs when no one comes." Lena nodded, unable to speak. "Your father," Dmitri said. "The letters you wrote, did he—" "No, he never came back. We got official notification of his death 3 years after the war ended. He'd been killed at a checkpoint trying to reach us. But for 3 years we didn't know. We just waited." "I'm sorry." "Don't be. Just don't waste this. Don't let her wonder. Don't let her spend 3 years, or 3 days, or 3 minutes, questioning whether you love her enough to show up." "I won't. I swear it." He was quiet for a moment. Then, "Irina wants to talk. Tomorrow, about custody arrangements." "That's good." "She's willing to negotiate. Limited visits. Supervised at first. If I prove I can be stable, if I can be the father Sasha needs instead of the criminal the courts fear, she'll consider joint custody." "That's more than good. That's everything." Dmitri shook his head. "It's a beginning. I have years of trust to rebuild. Years of absence to make up for. 1 letter and 3 days don't erase 2 years of nothing." "No, but they're a start." He looked at her. "You should go home. Back to New York. This isn't your fight." "When do you go back?" "I don't know. Another week, maybe. I want to be here for Sasha's next treatment, meet with the specialists, make sure she has everything she needs. Then I'll stay too." "Lena?" "Your aunt speaks Old Russian. Sasha speaks Old Russian. Half. The doctors use technical terms I can translate. You need me here. I'll pay you. I don't want your money. I told you that in New York." "Then what do you want?" Lena smiled sadly. "I want to see this through. I want to know how the story ends. And maybe," she paused, "maybe I want to see if love really can find a way. Even when the world says no." Dmitri studied her face. "You still miss him? Your father? Every day? Does it get easier?" "No. You just get better at carrying it." They stood in silence, watching snow fall over a foreign city, 2 strangers, brought together by a little girl's letter. The next week passed in a strange rhythm. Dmitri stayed at a hotel nearby, respecting Irina's boundaries while remaining close. Every morning, he came to the house. Every morning, Ekaterina let him in. He brought Sasha books, flowers, small gifts, nothing expensive, nothing that screamed wealth and power, a stuffed bear, a puzzle, a journal with a leather cover for her to write in. He learned her routine, what time she woke up, what foods she could stomach, when the treatments made her sick, and when she had energy. He met with Irina multiple times. Their conversations were tense, careful but productive. They established rules, boundaries, communication protocols. "She's different," Irina said to Lena one afternoon. They were in the kitchen while Dmitri read to Sasha upstairs. Calmer, more present. He used to be like a storm, all energy and chaos and violence. Now he's human. Irina smiled sadly. Yes, human. It's disconcerting. People can change. Can they? Or do they just hide better? "I think," Lena said carefully, "that love reveals who we really are, and your daughter reminded him who he wants to be." Irina was quiet. Then, "Thank you for helping him read the letter, for coming here. I don't think he would have come without you." "He would have. Maybe not as quickly, maybe not as prepared. But love like that doesn't need translation. No. But sometimes it needs a witness. Someone to say, this is real. This matters. Don't give up." 10 days after they arrived, Sasha had a bad day. The treatments hit her hard. She was sick all morning. Couldn't keep food down, drifted in and out of sleep. Dmitri sat beside her bed, helpless. "I hate this," Sasha whispered. "I hate being sick." "I know, Malishka. I hate that you missed 2 years because of me, because Mama was scared." "Stop. None of this is your fault. Isn't it? If I was stronger, if I was normal, you and Mama wouldn't have fought. You could have been a family." Dmitri's voice broke. "Listen to me. You are perfect exactly as you are. And your mother and I, our problems have nothing to do with you. We're adults. We made our choices, our mistakes. You don't carry that. But I miss you. I miss having a papa who lives with me, who sees me every day. I miss that too, more than anything. Will you stay? In Moscow? Can you move here? Be close?" Dmitri looked at Lena, standing in the doorway. She nodded slightly. "I'll do whatever it takes," he said to Sasha. "If that means moving to Moscow, I'll move. If that means selling everything in New York, I'll sell it. If that means learning to be a different person, I'll learn. You tell me what you need, and I will make it happen." Sasha's eyes filled with tears. "I just need my papa." "Then you have him. For as long as you want him. Forever." She fell asleep holding his hand. 2 weeks after they arrived, Lena and Dmitri sat in a Moscow cafe. It was snowing outside, heavy wet snow that turned the city soft and quiet. Inside, the cafe smelled like coffee and fresh bread and something cinnamon. "I'm staying," Dmitri said. "In Russia, at least for now." "What about your business?" "Gregor can handle things in New York. I'll fly back once a month for critical meetings. But my daughter is here. My family is here. Everything else is just logistics." Lena smiled. "She'll be glad." "Will you stay? In Moscow, I could use a translator, an assistant, someone who understands what this all means." Lena shook her head. "No. This is your journey, your family. I was just the person who read a letter." "You were more than that. You were the person who made me show up, who made me prove I was worth being her father. You would have done it anyway." "Would I? I'm not so sure." He pushed an envelope across the table. "Open it." Inside, a deed, an address in Brooklyn. Her name. "You already gave me an apartment in New York," Lena said, confused. "That was your rent for a year. This is yours, paid in full. No mortgage, no landlord, yours." "I can't accept." "Yes, you can. Because what you gave me can't be measured in rent payments or salary or anything money can buy." His voice was quiet, sincere. "You gave me my daughter back. You saw a monster and demanded he be a father. You traveled to a foreign country to help a stranger keep a promise. That's worth more than money could ever buy." Lena's eyes filled. "I was just a cleaning lady who read a letter." "No," Dmitri said firmly. "You were the only person brave enough to tell the truth. The only person who saw what mattered, and you changed everything." He stood to leave, then paused. "Sasha wants to write you. Regular letters, in Old Russian. She says she needs a friend who understands. Someone outside the family who knows her story." Lena smiled through tears. "I'd love that. And Ekaterina wants your address. She wants to send you things. Recipes, family histories. She says you remind her of how she used to be before the wars and the hardness. Tell her I'd be honored." Dmitri nodded. Then, impulsively, he hugged her. It was brief, awkward, but genuine. "Thank you," he whispered, "for everything." Lena flew back to New York 3 days later. At the airport, Ekaterina gave her a package wrapped in old newspaper. "Inside are letters," she said in Old Russian. "My sister's letters. Your grandmother's generation. The old words. I want you to have them. To remember. I'll treasure them. And this." She pressed a ring into Lena's palm. Gold, simple, worn. "It was my mother's. She gave it to me when I left home. She said, 'Give this to someone who remembers. Someone who carries the old world forward. You are that person.'" Lena couldn't speak, could only nod. On the plane home, she opened the package. Letters dating back to the 1940s. Stories of survival, of love during war, of families scattered and reunited. The old Russian script, beautiful and fading, connecting generations. And tucked in the bottom, a letter from Sasha, new, written just before Lena left. "Dear Lena," it read in careful Old Russian. "Papa says you are going home. I understand, but I want you to know. You are part of our family now, part of our story. Thank you for making my papa remember who he wanted to be. Thank you for reading my letter. Thank you for showing us that love is stronger than distance or rules or fear. I will write you every week. And maybe someday, when I am well, I will visit New York and you can show me your city. Until then, I remain your friend. Sasha." Lena cried the entire flight home. 3 months later, Lena received an email from Dmitri. "Sasha is in remission. The German specialist found a treatment protocol that worked. She's not cured. The doctors are careful to say that. But she's stable, strong, growing. The prognosis is good. Irina and I signed a new custody agreement, joint custody. I'll be in Moscow 3 weeks out of every month. Sasha will visit New York during summers. It's not perfect, but it's ours. I'm learning Old Russian. Ekaterina is teaching me. She says I'm a terrible student, too impatient, too practical, but I'm trying, because my daughter shouldn't have to translate her heart to her father. I've also started legitimate businesses, shipping still, but legal now. Paperwork and taxes and everything. Gregor thinks I've gone soft. Maybe I have. But soft is what Sasha needs, so soft is what I'll be. I don't know if I'm a good father yet. Probably not. I have years of mistakes ahead of me, but I'm here, present, trying, and apparently that's enough. Thank you for making me show up. Thank you for being brave when I couldn't be. Thank you for reading a letter that changed everything. If you're ever in Moscow, there's a room waiting for you. Sasha asks about you constantly. She's already written you 14 letters. I hope you've been writing back. With gratitude, Dmitri?" Lena smiled. She had written back, every week, in Old Russian, long letters about New York, about her clients, about the apartment she now owned, about the life she was building, and Sasha wrote back, about school, about piano, about treatments, about her father, who was learning to braid her hair and cook her favorite foods and remember the words to the old songs, about a family being rebuilt, one letter at a time. 6 months later, Lena received a package. Inside, plane ticket to Moscow, a handwritten note from Sasha. "Dear Lena, I am well. The doctors say I can have visitors. Will you come? Papa is planning a party, just family. But you are family too. Please say yes. Your friend, Sasha." Lena booked time off work, packed her bag, wore her grandmother's scarf. Moscow in summer was different, warm, green, alive. The house was full of people, Ekaterina, Irina's parents, cousins, friends, and in the center, Sasha, taller now, healthier, hair growing back in dark curls, eyes bright. She saw Lena and ran. "You came!" "Of course I came." They held each other while the party swirled around them. Dmitri approached, smiling. "Thank you for coming. Thank you for inviting me. There's someone I want you to meet." He gestured to a woman standing nearby. Elegant, professional. "This is Dr. Petrov, Sasha's primary oncologist." The doctor shook Lena's hand. "Mr. Volkov tells me you're the reason he came back, that you read Sasha's letter." "I just translated it." "You did more than that. You gave us our most important treatment, a father's presence. Studies show that family support dramatically improves outcomes in pediatric cancer. Sasha's recovery, her resilience, much of it comes from having both parents present, engaged, fighting for her." Lena's eyes filled. "So thank you," Dr. Petrov said. "From all of us. You may have saved this girl's life." That night, the party wound down. Family members left. Sasha fell asleep on the couch, exhausted but happy. Dmitri covered her with a blanket, smoothed her hair, kissed her forehead. He looked at Lena. "Walk with me?" They walked through the garden. Moscow was quiet under stars. "I never thanked you properly," Dmitri said. "You gave me an apartment. That's thanks enough." "I'm not talking about money." He stopped, faced her. "You showed me what matters, what I was willing to lose because I was too proud, too scared, too convinced that my world and hers couldn't coexist. You figured it out, because you demanded I try, because you saw a father under the monster, because you believed people could change." Lena smiled. "Can they? Change? I don't know about people, but I know a scared, violent man learned to sit quietly by his daughter's bed, learned to listen more than he talks, learned to be gentle. If that's not change, what is?" "Love," Lena said. "Love is what that is." They stood in comfortable silence. Then Dmitri said, "She wants you to be her godmother, officially. We're having a ceremony next month. Will you?" Lena's breath caught. "I'd be honored. You're part of this family now. Whether you're in New York or Moscow, whether you're reading letters or living your life, you're ours, and we're yours." Lena looked back at the house, at Sasha sleeping peacefully, at Irina cleaning up, Ekaterina humming in the kitchen, Gregor standing guard even at a family party, at a family built from broken pieces and impossible letters and one cleaning lady's willingness to tell the truth. "Yes," she said, "I'm yours." 1 year later, Lena received another letter, this one in modern Russian, easier to read, but no less meaningful. "Dear Lena, I am 11 years old now. I've been cancer-free for 9 months. The doctors say I'm strong, healthy. I start middle school next month. Papa lives here now, in Moscow. He sold his businesses in New York. He says they weren't worth missing me growing up. He still travels sometimes, but mostly he's here, teaching me English, taking me to museums, helping with homework. Mama and Papa are friends now, not married. That ship sailed long ago, Papa says, but friends. They have dinner together. They plan my schedule together. They even laugh together sometimes. Babushka says it's a miracle. I think it's just people trying. I still write in old Russian sometimes, to remember, to honor what we started. But mostly I write in modern Russian now, because the old words were for getting Papa's attention. Now that I have it, we can use easier words. Thank you for starting this, for reading my letter, for making Papa brave. I'm enclosing a picture. It's all of us. Papa, Mama, Babushka, and me. We're at my piano recital. See Papa in the front row? He's smiling. Really smiling. Not the scary smile, but the real one. That's because of you. With love, Sasha. Lena put the letter down. Looked at the picture, a family, imperfect but whole, smiling at a camera. In the background, barely visible, was a girl at a piano, hands on keys, playing. Lena hung the picture on her wall. Next to it, she placed Sasha's original letter, the one written in Old Russian, in desperate handwriting, by a little girl who just wanted her father to care enough to try. And below it, in a frame, the words she'd had, translated and printed, "Love always finds a way, even when the world says no." If this story touched something in you, if you believe love is stronger than fear, if you think people deserve second chances, if you know what it means to wait for someone who never came, then stay. There are more stories here, more moments of ordinary people doing extraordinary things, more proof that vulnerability is strength, that showing up matters, and that sometimes the bravest thing we can do is ask for help. Welcome home.